Something remarkable happens to INFJs when they hit their 30s and 40s. It's as if the years of silent struggle, confusion, and emotional turbulence finally crystallize into a kind of inner clarity and power that few people can truly grasp. The same depth that once made them misunderstood becomes their greatest source of strength. Their empathy, once exploited, becomes refined discernment. Their overthinking, once a burden, becomes foresight. The INFJ, often dismissed in youth as too sensitive, too serious, or too idealistic, begins to reveal their true nature, a blend of emotional intelligence, intuitive mastery, and spiritual resilience that makes them unstoppable. In their younger years, INFJs are often scattered between the worlds of who they are and who they're expected to be. They absorb everyone's pain, opinions, and expectations like a sponge. They feel deeply, but rarely find people who can match that depth. Society rewards loud confidence and surface charm, traits that the INFJ doesn't naturally display. But as they mature, something within them shifts. They begin to see that their sensitivity is not a weakness, but a superpower. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ Playbook today. The link is in the description of this video. By the time they enter their 30s, the INFJ has usually been through their share of heartbreak, disappointment, and betrayal. They've given too much to the wrong people, trusted too easily, and fought battles that left them emotionally exhausted. But from those ashes, something beautiful emerges: wisdom. They stop chasing validation and begin to honor their intuition. They no longer try to fit in with people who drain them. The INFJ in their 30s and 40s becomes more selective about who they give their energy to, understanding that not everyone deserves access to their inner world. They begin to live intentionally, guided by purpose rather than people-pleasing. This is also the age when the INFJ's analytical and creative sides find balance. In their youth, they often swing between dreaming big and being paralyzed by perfectionism or fear of failure. But in their 30s and 40s, life has taught them that waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. They realize that mastery comes from consistent action, not endless planning. And because INFJs are visionaries by nature, when they finally commit to something, they do it with an intensity that's unstoppable. They channel all that emotion, insight, and imagination into creating something meaningful, whether it's a career, a cause, an art form, or a mission that aligns with their values. What truly sets the mature INFJ apart is their newfound emotional detachment. They still feel deeply, but they've learned not to be ruled by their feelings. They can love without losing themselves. They can empathize without absorbing another's pain. They've learned to say no, to set boundaries without guilt, to choose peace over chaos. This calm authority gives them a kind of quiet power that's magnetic. People sense it when they walk into a room. The centeredness, the focus, the calm conviction that comes from knowing exactly who they are. In their 40s, INFJs often enter what can only be described as their era of alignment. The internal conflicts that once consumed them begin to fade. They no longer struggle to reconcile their spiritual ideals with worldly realities. Instead, they learn how to operate effectively in both worlds. They can navigate corporate spaces, relationships, and creative pursuits without compromising their authenticity. They become master communicators, blending emotional insight with strategic clarity. When they speak, people listen, not because they are loud, but because their words carry the weight of truth and experience. INFJs become unstoppable in their 30s and 40s because they reinvent themselves. Unlike some personalities that cling to familiar patterns, INFJs embrace transformation. They shed versions of themselves that no longer serve their growth, like a snake shedding its old skin. They've learned that endings are not failures, but invitations to evolve. By this stage, many have walked away from toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, and draining environments. They create new paths that reflect their authenticity and purpose, and this act of alignment amplifies their inner strength. The INFJ's intuition also matures with age. In youth, it often feels like a mysterious gift they can't fully control. It whispers truths they can't yet prove. But as they age, they learn to trust it completely. Their pattern recognition becomes razor sharp. They can anticipate outcomes, read energy shifts, and sense people's motives before anything is spoken. This gives them an edge in leadership, creativity, and personal growth. While others react, the mature INFJ responds. They move with patience and precision, guided by a deep inner knowing that rarely fails them. By their 40s, many INFJs step into roles of influence, quietly but powerfully. They may become mentors, counselors, writers, leaders, or spiritual guides. They no longer seek the spotlight, but naturally attract it because of their depth and authenticity. Their life becomes less about proving themselves and more about impact. They focus on creating meaning, leaving a legacy of wisdom, compassion, and transformation wherever they go. The irony is that the INFJ's journey to becoming unstoppable is often invisible. There's no sudden explosion of power or recognition. It's a gradual, almost sacred unfolding. They move from confusion to clarity, from chaos to composure, from external validation to inner authority. Every heartbreak becomes a lesson. Every disappointment becomes a doorway to strength. They are shaped by silence, refined by solitude, and awakened by suffering. And when they emerge, they are not just survivors. They are visionaries grounded in reality, dreamers with discipline, and healers who've learned to heal themselves first. The world often underestimates INFJs when they're young because their brilliance isn't loud. But after 30 and 40, they no longer need to be loud to be heard. Their power speaks through their presence. Their influence radiates through the lives they touch, the truths they tell, and the peace they embody. They've mastered the art of turning pain into purpose, and in a world full of noise and superficiality, that makes them unstoppable. As the INFJ moves deeper into their 40s, they stop trying to change the world from a place of frustration and start influencing it from a place of inner mastery. They no longer fight against systems or people who cannot see what they see. Instead, they learn the art of subtle transformation. The younger INFJ often burns out trying to awaken others, to make everyone understand or care as deeply as they do. But the mature INFJ realizes that true influence doesn't come from convincing. It comes from being. When they embody their truth, others naturally align. This quiet yet magnetic presence becomes their greatest power, an energy that uplifts rooms, softens hardened hearts, and inspires people to reflect simply by being around them. By this age, the INFJ has made peace with solitude. What once felt like loneliness now feels like sanctuary. They understand that their solitude is not isolation, it's recalibration. It's where they return to themselves after giving so much to the world. In their 30s and 40s, they begin designing lives that honor their need for deep reflection and silence. They choose fewer but more meaningful connections, carve out creative and spiritual spaces, and build boundaries that preserve their energy. This balanced rhythm, giving and retreating, engaging and resting, allows them to maintain a kind of emotional stamina that few can match. It's this discipline of self-care that sustains their long-term impact. In their younger years, pain overwhelms them because they absorb it without understanding its purpose. But after years of transformation, they come to see pain as the sculptor of their wisdom. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That single shift changes everything. They no longer resist discomfort, but use it as fuel for growth. This spiritual alchemy, the ability to turn suffering into enlightenment, makes them resilient in a way that no external force can break. They move through loss, rejection, or failure with quiet strength, knowing that each experience refines their purpose. They no longer float in the abstract realm of dreams without grounding them in action. They've learned how to execute their vision with precision. They develop strategies, systems, and habits that allow their ideas to take form in the world. Their introverted intuition becomes integrated with their extroverted thinking shadow, giving them an executive-level ability to organize, plan, and deliver results while still being guided by empathy and ethics. This fusion of vision and structure is what makes them powerful change-makers, artists who think like strategists and strategists who feel like poets. Around this age, many INFJs begin to attract people who match their depth rather than drain it. This is because they've stopped broadcasting energy that says, "Fix me," or "Notice me." Instead, their energy says, I'm whole, and wholeness attracts wholeness. They form friendships and partnerships built on mutual respect and emotional maturity. These new bonds empower them to expand their purpose even further. They finally experience what it's like to be truly seen without having to explain themselves. This sense of alignment with kindred spirits reignites their creativity and strengthens their faith in humanity, a faith they might have lost in earlier years. They finally stop apologizing for their intensity. In youth, they often tone themselves down to make others comfortable. They hide their insights, their emotions, their spirituality, because they fear being too much. But by their 30s and 40s, they realize that their depth is not a flaw, it's a calling. They begin to speak with unapologetic honesty, write with raw truth, and create with unfiltered passion. They understand that their authenticity will repel the shallow, but resonate deeply with those who are ready for realness. This fearless self-expression becomes a superpower. It allows them to create art, ideas, and movements that awaken others at a soul level. When they were younger, INFJs often felt rushed, as if they were behind, as if they had to prove their worth before it was too late. But in their mature years, they develop a serene relationship with time. They realize that life unfolds in divine order. They trust their timing, their process, their intuition. This patience gives them endurance. They no longer chase fleeting opportunities or people. Instead, they wait for what truly aligns with their spirit. And when it arrives, they recognize it instantly because they have the clarity to see beyond illusion. Financial and professional confidence also begin to solidify during this age. INFJs who once struggled with the practical side of life, money, leadership, business, start mastering those domains. Their empathy and insight make them exceptional at negotiation, mentorship, and people management. They begin to see money not as something corrupt or materialistic, but as energy that can be used to amplify good. This shift allows them to step into positions of influence where they can create tangible impact. They become the type of leaders who elevate others rather than exploit them, using their success as a tool for service. Spiritually, the INFJ in their 30s and 40s becomes deeply attuned. They begin to see the unseen patterns behind everything, how their past pain prepared them for their current purpose, how people cross their paths in divine timing, how even detours have direction. This awareness gives them peace in uncertainty. They no longer panic when plans change because they know that what's meant for them will find them. Their life becomes less about control and more about flow, and ironically, that surrender brings even greater success. By this point in life, the INFJ doesn't just live, they embody their purpose. They have nothing left to prove, only things to express. They've learned that true power doesn't come from control or domination, but from authenticity and clarity. They move quietly, but every step is deliberate. They speak softly, but their words linger long after they're gone. They become architects of transformation, within themselves and in everyone lucky enough to cross their path. And that is why, after 30 and 40, the INFJ stops being misunderstood and starts becoming legendary. They no longer have to strive to be understood or to prove the depth of their vision. Life itself begins to reflect the inner transformation they've undergone. The quiet battles they fought in their younger years, against self-doubt, overthinking, and emotional exhaustion, start to give way to deep peace. They're no longer reactive, no longer pulled by external chaos. They have learned how to live from the center of their being. This inner stillness becomes their greatest advantage. When others panic, they remain composed. When others chase validation, they radiate contentment. Their calmness becomes influence, and their presence alone begins to shift atmospheres. They are no longer just emotionally intelligent. They are spiritually discerning. They can sense what people need before words are spoken, but they no longer rush to save or fix. Instead, they guide others towards self-realization. Their compassion evolves from rescuing to empowering. They have learned that true love is not carrying others' burdens, but helping them discover their own strength. This is why, in midlife and beyond, they often become natural mentors, counselors, teachers, or spiritual leaders. Their influence is quiet yet transformative. They do not preach, they live the lesson. Their relationship with ambition also changes. In earlier years, they were torn between their longing to make a difference and their aversion to competition. But as they grow older, they find balance. They no longer fear success, nor do they idolize it. They pursue impact, not recognition. They understand that legacy is not built through noise, but through consistency, integrity, and truth. They begin to measure success not by how many people know them, but by how deeply they have helped others grow. This shift allows them to operate from abundance instead of scarcity, turning their work, art, or leadership into something timeless. Creatively, they reach new heights. The same imagination that once made them daydreamers now becomes a source of mastery. Their ideas mature, gaining clarity and depth. They can communicate profound truths with simplicity. Many discover that they have a natural gift for storytelling, writing, teaching, or coaching, fields where they can translate complex emotions into universal wisdom. Their art, whatever form it takes, begins to carry the resonance of truth. It touches people at a soul level because it is born from experience rather than theory. In their 20s, they saw perfection in everything: the right career, the right love, the right expression of their potential. But the mature version of this personality knows that life's beauty lies in its imperfections. They have learned to laugh at themselves, to let things go, to trust the process. Their lightness of spirit surprises those who once saw them as overly serious or reserved. It's not that they have become careless. It's that they have finally found freedom in surrender. In their younger years, they often gave freely, leaving themselves depleted. Now, they understand the laws of exchange. They know that energy must circulate to remain alive. They give, but they also receive. They create, but they also rest. They help others, but they no longer neglect their own soul. This awareness allows them to sustain impact without burnout. They know how to renew themselves spiritually, mentally, and physically. They have mastered the rhythm of life, when to advance, when to retreat, when to speak, and when to remain silent. They no longer question the subtle nudges they feel. They act on them with confidence. This deep alignment with intuition gives them a mysterious advantage in all areas of life. They seem to be at the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, seizing the right opportunities. To the outside world, it looks like luck, but they know it is the fruit of alignment. When one's inner world is in order, the outer world begins to synchronize. Relationships also take on a new dimension. The older they get, the more they crave emotional authenticity over excitement. They're no longer drawn to dramatic or draining connections. They prefer peace to intensity, depth to thrill. They begin to attract partners, friends, and collaborators who share their frequency, those who value emotional safety, growth, and shared purpose. This makes their relationships stable and nurturing. They no longer chase chemistry. They build companionship. They no longer crave being understood. They value being respected. They also become guardians of truth. By this age, they've seen how much suffering comes from deception, both self-inflicted and societal. So, they dedicate themselves to authenticity, in conversation, in relationships, and in work. They refuse to live a divided life. They are transparent in their intentions and consistent in their values. This level of honesty commands trust. People come to them because they feel safe, knowing that they will hear the truth, not judgment, not flattery, but truth delivered with compassion. If you want to truly understand yourself and unlock your full potential as an INFJ, check out the INFJ playbook today. The link is in the description of this video.